You're listening to episode 777 of a Very Spatial podcast, January 18th, 2026.
Hello and welcome to our Very Spatial podcast. I'm Jesse.
I'm Sue.
I'm Barb.
And this is Frank.
And this week we're going to talk about some stuff. And for a second episode in a row, Jesse is going to diatribe even though he doesn't want to diatribe. And it's just going to be that way, I think, for a while.
And I was going to say, I think there's going to be a lot of this episode.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
So for our, I don't know, do we want to do the sci first or the sci last in the news?
First, just get over with.
First, just pull the Band-Aid. Okay. So the United States has withdrawn from, I believe it's 66, plus or minus, and who knows, it may have changed by now since the news was reported, different organizations, everything from climate change to supporting global children's activities to just all the things that we as geographers, as we're out in the field, oftentimes talk about and try to work toward. Many of those, the U.S. has left those organizations, which, of course, after all the things that we left in terms of things we were funding that we're no longer funding from last year in February and March, USAID and such, it's just a continuing,
Yeah. Basically, if it's got UN in it anywhere, there's probably an excellent chance that we've withdrawn from it at this point.
Or just the word international. Not even specifically UN.
And I think back to what Sue said in the last podcast where she said it's not everywhere, it's just here, that the world goes on and they have access to everything. They're part of those partnerships. But yet we're not part of those communities that we've built and shared between data and resources, training, that are really transboundary. And, they touch, politics touch them, but it's a complex world where a lot of things need to get done. And it feels like, how is this going to impact everything? And you don't sometimes find out how everything's impacted until you go to do something, or you go to work with someone, or you go to, like I did, some trainings I signed up that are through the UN, and you go, oh, I guess I can't participate in that.
I don't think it's that. I mean, in the sense that every day is something else, but I think a breaking point will be reached, and maybe it's sooner than later.
We hope.
The real issue here is that they could join them back next week. That's one of the big problems with this approach that we're doing now is it's capricious would be I think the right term for everything. And if you can't depend upon a partner, they're not a partner. They're just somebody you have to contend with. And so even if tomorrow we go, we're going to go back and join them all, it's still all those organizations and all the other nations that belong to those organizations are going to go, you know what? We don't know if you're going to flip your script the day after tomorrow. So we're just going to have to presume that you're not involved. In some ways, in some cases, there are people in this country that prefer that for some of those organizations. But I think overall, one of the things that we haven't figured out how we're going to contend with yet is, what are we losing, is what Barbara said. What are we losing that we don't even realize? Because really, most people understand in most organizations, communication makes it all better. If we're all talking, at least you understand what's going on. Even if you go, I don't agree with this, but I get what's going on, where it's coming from, and how you got there. But withdrawing from those organizations means we're not part of the conversation even. So things are going to happen, and we don't even know.
To continue this, which I should not, my thought this week was, this is Brexit for the United States. We didn't realize, it wasn't explicitly stated that way. I mean, most of us knew that it was kind of in that context, but it has just become that separation from the larger body. For us, of course, it's our issues with the UN that we've created. It's what we're creating right now, our rift with NATO. And so that is essentially, I think, if anybody could understand us, it's the folks in the UK who did not vote for Brexit, who were just sitting there going like, yep, now you know what we were dealing with for the last X number of years. Yeah, I mean, they're still
ongoing.
Dealing with it. Yeah.
Well, an expectation we've always had is that a lot of the data repositories are stored with us. We've always had that view, and there's been a feeling of, like Frank said, that we can rely on that. What happens when we aren't, in a large part in control of our own, not just access, but also we just don't have that, even the repositories anymore. What do we do when we're isolated from the things we need to do our work? How much farther behind does it make it so that we can do what we need to do that people expect us to do?
There's a lot of interesting, from a dispassionate geographer academic point of view and political scientist point of view, there's a lot of interesting things that are going to come out of this. From a citizen point of view, it's horrific and I hate it. But from, again, sort of the academic bit of things is that we have an entire political system, maybe that's not the right word, that is built upon the general notion that we have interdependence and that isolation, that the way that you strengthen bonds is you actually have them. you interact, you connect together, you trade, you communicate, you work together on social issues, all that sort of stuff. And really, I think you can make the argument that's the way the United States went post articles of the articles of blanking on it. Help me out here. What came before the Constitution? Thank you. I don't know why that popped in my head. I could not get it in my head that we couldn't have these independent nations. They had to be interdependent to work. Not that every state was a nation, but it acted very similar to a nation. And that's going to fundamentally change a lot of geographic principles, not just political geography, but things like alliances and trade agreements, flows of information, flows of populations, flows of you name it. Anything we talk about in geography that's fundamentally different. It's going to be fundamentally different, particularly if we continue on this road, than it was even 80 years ago. So it's the curse, right? May you live in interesting times. Well, unfortunately, apparently we do.
And to stop it, that topic at least, we will move on.
So Ohio is using Waze. The Ohio Department of Transportation is using Waze to show where they are snowplowing in their routes. It's a pretty cool use of an existing technology that most people have on their phones. And so I thought it was worth highlighting.
And apparently this has been going on for a couple of years in Ohio, but you only see the ones that are near your location, just like any time that you're in Waze. But just interesting that they're including that.
The most common phrase you hear in winter almost anywhere in the Northeast is, why isn't insert DOT plowing?
Yeah, and I wonder if it's available in other places. So with Waze, you can, of course, contribute. So obviously, in this case, it's a partnership, so they're putting it out there. But I think that there might be ways to let drivers report that they're seeing plows, too.
Yeah.
Can I just go on a tangential rant for a second about the report thing? So the state of West Virginia got really bad grades on bridges. Where all of our bridges are, not all, but almost all of our bridges are awful you should not drive on them. And given the accident that happened was it Ohio recently, like a week or two ago, or bridge collapsed? It might have been Pennsylvania. I can't remember. It was not too far from here. That's all I remember. This is a big issue. West Virginia right now is going through and fixing all of the roads, those little ones on the interstate, which are great, but they take like 9 months to properly assess the issue, repair it, all that sort of stuff. And it looks like they're expanding it to 3 lanes in the particular quarter that we live in. Dear Google, for everyone listening who works at Google Maps, every day that I drive by that, you don't need to ask me, is this construction still going on? Because you should be able to tap into some sort of interface, some sort of data set that tells you that's a long-term project. Yes, it's always going on. It will be going on until like 2027. Stop asking me that.
UVA has been using imagery and AI to map ghost trees along the coastal areas in Virginia. This has given them specific information on where these ghost forests are in relation to rising waters and other impacts that you have from what are known as ghost forests, where you have these white, pale, leafless trees that were impacted by things like ice storms. And a lot of times they're missed in traditional ways of detecting them, which is people driving by and saying, hey, I saw a ghost forest over here. So this is pretty exciting. And they said it gives them a chance to work on preserving the ecosystem.
Yeah, in this particular case, they're focusing on the coast because a lot of these are being generated by the influx of salt water. because of rising water levels and things like that.
And actually, I think they're doing more than they've stepped outside of just Virginia. They're going all the way along the East Coast from Maine to South Carolina. So giving that full coastal aspect to that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they said identifying these ghost trees and ghost forests on people's properties or agricultural land could give them an indicator of when you're seeing the salinization going on. So it's a visible way to see, what's happening.
And to point out, whenever they say AI, they're not talking about generative AI here. They're talking about deep learning aspects of AI. So just as I keep pushing in there,
should I say machine learning?
You can. Yeah. But it's just, it's my little flag to fly that not all AI is Gen AI. So,
right. And, this is AI that we've been using for decades at this point.
Yeah.
So this is normal remote sensing approaches to doing things.
Enhanced by our current capabilities, but building on long-term use cases. But that is the news.
And in the web corner, I found a site called Lost at Night, and it is asking for the public to help them georeference International Space Station data. I could not find out how old this is. I don't know if it's still active, but I thought that what they're working on is, pretty cool and needed. They're looking to create a global map of Earth's lights at night to measure and track light pollution. And they're trying to accurately align images with their geographic coordinates. So again, I don't know much more than that. I've been looking through the site, looking at what people are contributing, but I can't tell if it's still active.
If it's up, it's active. So if you...
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a cool project funded by the EU's Horizon Europe program. That's kind of cool.
Their grant number and see when that was awarded.
2023 is in the the title. So
yeah. So yeah, I would say since it's only a couple of years old, it's probably still going.
Well, there you go.
Technology. It is a thing that happens. We are somewhat invested in it because it's a thing that we have control of at this point. It is a thing that is highlighted at various conferences throughout the year, but specifically consumer electronics, which includes a lot of things that we do talk about, are highlighted at the Consumer Electronics Show, which takes place currently in Las Vegas, I believe, and just happened since our last episode. Now, with that said, what things did you note while you were looking at CES information? I'll point out that here was there, and that was kind of course, a big thing for our portion of the world is, here with their focus on collecting data, on helping create better automated vehicles, helping to better understand roads and movement. I'll point to here and their activities, generally speaking, whenever we talk about CES. So that's my big one that I would kind of point out.
I was impressed with one thing because of, I can't believe it hasn't been explored so much before, but then I'm remembering there was a Top Gear episode of it being explored by Toyota, which is a smart wheelchair, because accessibility is such a big thing worldwide. And so there is an EV electric motorized chair that's going out on the market that's voice controlled. And it just seemed like something that was a natural fit for consumer electronics. The thing that I saw that made me laugh, because I have worked on a project similar to that a long time ago, is an AI-powered tennis ball launcher, only because I worked at a research company that worked on a robotic basketball trainer for basketball, because there was always money in sports and entertainment. So I feel like that's similar, that it might seem on its surface to be something that's gimmicky, but in reality makes sense and probably will make a lot of money.
Well, I think, okay, so I must preface this with a disclaimer. What I really cared about from CES are the cool lights that you can now get that are smart lights that are driven, and you can get them in your house, and they'll do all kinds of things. So that's really what I was interested in.
I just have to cut in here for a second that we have had smart lights in our house for decade plus at this point. So I'm still not sure why now.
Because they're cool
suddenly,
RGB and all kinds of stuff they can do, LEDs.
Which we've, never mind.
Yes, we have had some of those things, but not in the format now. So in any event, but related to our space, I think it's pretty clear the emphasis on continuing, right? Emphasis on autonomous driving, not just from cars and things like that, but other platforms and robotics coming together, right? So with the sort of focus on AI and these things, but also those are both areas where spatial navigation and understanding, right, are huge parts of their success or not success. So there was a lot of that was going on. Although I remain skeptical of the robots because I want robots to be able to do cool things within reason. But it just seems like the promise is always way more than what you actually see in any event. But it's clear that that's been a big push as well.
The most important thing at CS for me was by far, by like leaps and bounds, was the Lego Smart Brick. The Smart Play system. This is really cool. It's a brick that's like a 2x4 thick that everyone has used forever that's ever played with Legos. It has like a light sensor in it and it has a proximity sensor in it and sound and all that sort of stuff like that. My inner 12-year-old was so excited when I saw this in the news because of all the things that you can do using all the other stuff that they already have for like, engines and transmissions and things like that. Combine that together, you can make some really nifty stuff, I think, with this new Smart Play system. And then they have a Wi-Fi a part of it too that allows it to talk. And so you can actually think of like nanobots made out of Lego that just kind of work together. And that's just neat.
I will point out that these will be available as part of certain kits as well. So Star Wars kit. I think there was something else, another.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it is. But Star Wars one. I think it was an X-Wing. They were showing it off in the event. So keep an eye out for
apparently
that.
controversy in the Lego community.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There's always controversy in the Lego community.
Well, that's fair.
But that's my inner 12-year-old. My outer, much older than that person, noticed AI is AI everywhere, AI, and every AI thing AI. And I'm sick of it, to be honest with you, if I'm honest.
One thing about the AI, again, not disagreeing with you about it, but there's a shift from AI as a service to AI on a platform. So it's running on your device that it can talk to a service if it can't do it locally. But we're getting now to the point where, with the GPUs, NPUs built into these systems on a chip are strong enough to do larger models. And so you don't have to rely on a lot of this server-based activity. And while it does drain your battery a little bit more, and it's at least not hitting some of those things where a lot more of your data is being put out into someone else's system. So we'll see what happens. And of course, as part of that, separate from CES, but an announcement that happened, Apple is going to be using portions of Gemini for Siri coming up in the near future. So we're waiting to see if Apple keeps pushing their AI privacy ideas as part of this, or if it's going to, feed more data into the system. So yeah, agree, but there's some hope.
Well, see, this is my problem: is I don't trust companies anymore. If I did ever, but I trust them less now. And my fear here is that all this AI on your systems is not really on your systems. My fear here is that they'll go, we're just connected to all this other crap that's out there. And we could just do a distributed system, much like when you would voluntarily sign up. What was that system years ago? You could voluntarily sign up. It was a screensaver, and they would do mathematical computations for scientific.
SETI.
Yeah.
Folding at home was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The protein folding. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like that, but that you had to go, I'm good with it. You do that. And I'm okay with that methodology, but my fear here is that they'll utilize these systems for micro purposes that I don't necessarily agree with. And given the movement that's going on in Windows 11, for example, my fear is that I won't have the ability to go, no, I don't want to do that. And that's why I'm a little concerned about all this stuff getting so strongly embedded in the base systems. It sounds a little conspiracy theory-esque, I grant you, but it is a concern of mine.
It is definitely fair, I feel. And to counter that, Linux and local install.
Yeah, there's ways
Most
around it.
Most people aren't going to do that, right?
Yeah, it's too much work. And, it's as much as it's a kind of a joke that, I complain about QGIS, it's the same problem. It's better. Yeah, absolutely. But it's still, there's a good polished product out there, but I have to give all my crap over to somebody else. And it's like, I don't want to have to make that trade-off. Stop making me make that trade-off.
I mean, I think it's a caveat to everything that there's a lot, I think, of really cool things going on in the smart home space. But it's the same trade-off, right? Is that for ease, many of these systems you have to connect into something. So like Alexa or, whatever it is, your choice. And there are alternatives like Home Assistant and other things, but that's it. You have to either be able to do kind of your DIY, or you have to concede that I want it and I have to let somebody else do it. So
I'm so proud.
I know.
Sue said Home Assistant.
I used to just be like, oh, just do Alexa. But now I'm wary. As you say, I'm coming around to that side.
And the other part of that is I have to ask the opportunity cost question. Like, so AMD, which I'm a huge fan of AMD. I'm currently recording this on an AMD laptop. So I'm a big proponent of their technologies. So the new Ryzen AI Max CPU that they're rolling out, that is optimized for AI purposes. Cool. But what if I don't want that? Like, what are you not doing in your research and development that AI is sort of taken over because we're focusing on this and we want to maximize the AI's ability to do things? What am I losing that I could be losing in terms of capability?
And of course, the standard Jesse counterpoint. But the nice thing about the AI Max is the fact that it is also a great gaming chip.
It is, but it's
not advertised that way. But the same things that make a chip a really good AI chip also makes it a really good graphics chip oftentimes.
Today. That's sort of my fear, is that there is a divergence point where we need to optimize, and we may be there. I don't know. I just don't know enough about that level of hardware optimization, but there is a point where, and we're seeing it with graphics to some extent, is they're kind of optimizing for AI, not necessarily for graphics purposes, even though there's a lot of parallel there. Obviously you get better graphics out of something optimized for AI, but it's like, okay, wait a minute. I want better VR that's lighter weight. That's what I want. That's my thing. So how do we utilize this, not just for AI, but for other things? And since it focuses everything around AI, and it just, that's why I'm sick of it. I feel like we're missing opportunities under an economic promise for a reality that we're not going to hit in our lifetime.
And there's a couple of companies who are already pulling back on that branding aspect because they realize people are starting to get a little annoyed. And they're like, we just want our stuff. And they're like, okay, we're just going to take that label off and you can still use it for AI. It's just, we're not going to tout it for that. I can't remember. There were like two companies, especially, that were kind of highlighted at CES for removing the badges, like the Copilot badge and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Also, let's jump to a different topic. Why is everything foldable? Like, why do they want to make everything foldable? Like, everything. I'm like, my phone is fine. It's fine. I don't need to fold up more phone.
Okay, we will turn to the folded phone user.
So
in our group.
I don't disagree. So I do have a folding phone and I like it quite a bit. But even I look at, and by the way, mine folds just once, 2 halves. And I do actually use the folding function perhaps more than I thought I would to open the screen out. But yes, I would agree. There's no reason for a trifold. Like, at that point, just carry a tablet.
It's a bigger screen. I mean, that's the thing, right?
So,
we're trying to get a tablet in our pocket.
Yeah.
Where we can use it as a phone when we want to, or we can pull it out and have it as a tablet when we want to.
I guess it's the obsession with putting it in a pocket then, which I don't put mine in my pocket most of the time anyway. So in any event, I don't disagree though. Although I was thinking the other day if anybody had come up with a cool system. So we have a screened in porch, and maybe this was Etsy, yes. And with the flexible glass and types of things we have now, or glass derivatives, wouldn't it be cool to be able to make a windowed porch without having to install windows, right? So that it could just roll down and make it glass like in the winter. So I was like, A, does that exist? I don't know. B, that would be pretty sweet and a use for this type of technology that has the flexible glass type stuff. But anyway, but ultimately, Frank, I agree that the folding thing, it's like just because you can doesn't mean you should for some things. Although I really do like my Samsung Fold. I like it good.
And this is the problem I have with the folding. It's back to the AI issue, is that really what I want out of my phone is and we're close. I just think we need to stop getting diverted by folding this and AI that, is that I really want to just use my phone as my computer, right? Is that there are some implementations that do things like this, but we're not quite there yet. I want to have a dock. I just put my phone into it and boom, that's my entire computing platform with 3 screens and a keyboard and mouse and all that stuff like that. Make that work better.
To switch to Samsung.
Well, again, we're on the precipice of that. That's the frustrating bit for me. I'm like, I feel like we're getting diverted in this stuff. So like, would you just focus on that piece? Then we would have something amazing, because then I would literally have a computer that I carry with me all the time that fits in every type of way that I want to interface with it. And then if you want to play with folding phones and all that crap later, that's fine, whatever. But get that perfected first.
Well, I'm not sure you're ever going to get that from an iOS device, because that'll keep you from buying a laptop.
Yeah. I get that but again, from a technology standpoint, those M chips are astounding. Get those things. They could do this.
I was going to I do like the foldable things, but then I get a little bit worried about, that fold point can become a place where things break. But I also really am enamored of fitting everything into a small bag. So, I do like that D&D adventure style of technology. But something that caught my eye at CS is the BeatBot RoboTurtle. And that's because it's an example of a company that's got a technology they do right, which they do basically robotic pool cleaners, meeting people in the field that have a need, which are people that needed a swimming robot turtle so that they don't disturb the environment when they're looking at things like coral reefs coming together. And, it mimics a real life sea turtle, and it can be used in doing research and analysis. I didn't check to see if it, can do readings like water readings and things like that and send them back. But it's just a really cool example of when you bring people together that know what they need, and a company that is able to expand beyond the way they think. And it just makes sense.
Sadly, it says that it's a decorative prototype figure and not a working robot. Bummer.
But someday it will be.
Someday, yeah.
So I assume since it's just a decorative prototype, we can't know whether or not there are sensors in. But I mean, it's one of those things that it would be very easy to put sensors into something that size. So
it's cool looking though.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Also, can we point out a couple silly things, but they're really kind of interesting. One is somebody has finally made the changeable nail polish technology from Total Recall from like 1987 or whenever that movie was out. Yeah. That you have these things that you put on, like press on nails or whatever, and you put it into the device and you can change the color right then and there. And I'm like, that's somebody paying attention to science fiction and going, well, wait a minute, that's interesting. And I really love that somebody has been exploring that. And I can totally see how it's not a realm that necessarily any of us are really heavy into, but I totally get that that's a huge market that a lot of people find important. And I think it's wonderful that they're thinking about how do we apply technology to what effectively is just paint. So at its heart. And I think that's kind of nifty, particularly if they're able to do at some point the complicated nails that I see a lot of now, that if you could do something like that. So I thought that was pretty nifty.
And it's environmentally conscious, by the way, to interject briefly, right? Because you're not spending all that money manufacturing, making, and disposing of all the paint.
And the second thing is I want to insert the Ryan Reynolds gif from Harold and Kumar where he goes, why would I want to suck on a lollipop to listen to music? I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but why? It's just weird. It's like I'm genuinely going, who sat down and went, I have an idea. I wonder if you could do that. And then like went all the way to market with it and got money and product and all this stuff like that. I'm like, I don't understand how that, I just don't, that is a very weird one that I actually can see military uses for, to be honest with you, but I can't see, I think it's just so weird and so out there that I don't understand it, but I love that somebody's doing something weird and out there like that.
I'm trying to figure out if iPolish is a e-ink, because I feel like this is e-ink.
It doesn't say, yeah.
But I can't find anywhere.
But it's interesting. That's why it says proprietary.
iPolish e-ink.
I like how their FAQs say, "Is this legit?" And they say in their response, "Yes." Something that was once only in sci-fi movies is now real. I love it.
AI's answer is yes. It's similar to e-ink. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, is it e-ink?
They tell you, then everybody will know.
The nails are most likely e-ink. So, okay. So it's basically everybody's on board that I'm seeing that it's probably e-ink. They are waterproof and described as e-ink. Okay. So it's probably e-ink.
That's by observers, not them.
Yeah.
Well, this
iPolish is being quiet about it.
Yeah. So
it's kind of nifty, I think. And this is the thing that I'm most like, oh, I could actually see myself buying one of those. Is these have been around for a while, but Loomba makes this really neat all-wheel drive mower that uses LiDAR and to mow your grass. But the thing that's nice about this is that it has capability to climb up to an 80% slope, which if you live in a place like West Virginia, that's very, 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 very attractive. The idea that I could just stick this thing out there, and I think it's battery operated, and let it just go do stuff and leave me the heck alone, I'm all on board with that.
There you go.
And I just wanted to point out another thing that was debuted by Rescue Retriever, and it is founded by firefighters. And this is another case of firefighters where they know what's going on, and this is something they felt like was needed. It's a smart dog collar that lights up like a strobe light to make it easier for firefighters to find your pet if there's a fire. And I just thought that's a really good example, again, of technology matching up with a need that people that are doing a job notice. And firefighters often experience things in a different way than most people think about. And so their knowledge is really needed for something like this to be workable.
And the last thing I want to cover is something I just want to give a cautionary tale to those who are particularly younger and may have a clever idea. Patent that idea. And the reason is because there's a really cool thing that GE has put out, which has a barcode scanner that you put on your refrigerator that you can scan your items, and it helps keep track of what you have in inventory from the scanned item, which is really cool. It's an idea I had like 15 years ago, and I just was like, oh, that's kind of, we should do something like that. And I just never did, and I never patented or anything with it. It's a pretty cool idea. You should check it out. But if you have cool ideas, patent them, do yourself a favor.
You're just not making money from it. That's the important part.
No. But it's kind of neat. It seems to be from the picture built into the ice dispenser, like you beep inside of there, which kind of makes sense.
And that is CES 2026. Of course, we want you to head out to other events. And so you should check out events around the world, and even some that are virtual, such as
the American Association of Geographers Annual Meeting has a call for universities to participate as nodes, and that would be a virtual node to have a watch party of any sessions that are offered virtually. This is an opportunity for you to have your faculty, staff, and students attend if typically they couldn't afford to go to the in-person conference or to attend virtually because of cost. And it's a great idea.
I will say right now, Sue and I are supposed to be at the conference.
I am a node.
Barbara and I are nodes. But if you don't want to go to AAG, which is perfectly fine, and you're much more of a QGIS person, obviously you will not see me there, but the QGIS conference is taking place October 5th and 6th in Laax, Switzerland. Did I see that correctly?
Of course, we would like for you to tell us if you have an event that you would like us to share on the podcast by sending us an email at podcast@veryspatial.com.
If you'd like to reach us individually, I can be reached at sue@veryspatial.com.
I can be reached at barb@veryspatial.com.
And you can find me at frank@veryspatial.com.
Finally, I'm available at Kinda Spatial, and of course, you can find all of our contact information over at veryspatial.com/contact.
As always,
We're the folks in Very Spatial.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you in a couple weeks.